guys know what a number line is? We're gonna do a brief sketch of one just so I can quickly review the basics. Believe it or not, sometimes even my smartest math students put this backwards. And they say, oh, but I thought we could do it anyway. No, a number line is always the same. It has to go negative on the left and positive numbers on the right. And again, that's something that pretty much everybody in here knows, but it's just a reminder. Another reminder as we start to work with negative numbers is that the order, I'm only labeling a couple of them here. Between these two negative numbers that I've actually labeled on my number line, bless you, which is bigger? Kate? Yeah, so just a reminder, even though the digit, and that means the number without the sign, the digit is smaller, but the closer it is to 0 and the closer it is to the positive side, bless you, the bigger it is. So just some reminders, right? Again, this is easy, hopefully. This is stuff you already know. So just reminding you of these things as we go forward. Integers. When I talk about integers, anybody remember what an integer is? It's a specific kind of number. Luke? Good. An integer is a whole number, not a fraction, not a decimal. Whole numbers, both positive and negative. So all whole numbers, negative 1,000,000, 975, whatever it might be, if it's a whole number, it's considered an integer. Later on we'll get to decimals and fractions, and those are rational numbers, and we'll talk more about those. Okay, so again, this should be pretty simple. One of the things you're going to do is to graph on a number line. So if I say graph these numbers, 3, -3, and let's say 0. We'll start simple. You draw a number line. You put the little lines. Now, I'm going to go back up to this number line that I did in blue up at the top and just do it there. If you want to do the same, that's fine. If you want to draw another number line, you could do that. But just real quickly, when it says graph, what do you think that means we're going to do? If it's just a number, how do I graph it? Any ideas, Diego? Okay, yeah, so the tally marks or the little lines. So here's what you do. First of all, whatever numbers you're asked to graph, make sure to label where it is. You don't have to label every single one of them, but label the ones you're using. Here's what you do. You label the number. Now the number could go up above or it could go below. I wrote the 0 below, but then I had to write this up above because positive was in the way. Here's how you graph it, guys. Pay attention. It's real hard. Done. You need to mark that place with a dot. Make it big enough so I can see it. If you want to do a color so it stands out, that's fine. Otherwise, just with your pencil, don't make it so small that I don't see it. So I graph 3. I graph -3. It's not labeled, so I come down. The labeling is important. I'm not going to count it for you. I need you to mark it out. And then 0. So when it says graph, it is that simple to start. All right, when I said this was simple, I meant it. So when you're asked to graph numbers, now, what if, so that's with integers. What if we did one with fractions or other non-integer numbers? Let me give you an example. We'll do one like this. Graph. And so we will want a new number line for this. 2.5, 7/3, and -3.75. Now we worked on this last year. So after you write those numbers down, give yourself a new number line. I generally am going to recommend you start with 0 if you can see that you need a lot more positive or a lot more negative. Remember, if you're doing in pencil, you can always erase and extend. Oh, and important on the number line, guys, these arrows. This just tells us this number line goes to infinity in both directions. So we do need to have the arrows on the end. gonna give myself a couple tally marks here. Not sure if that's really what they're called, number line marks. Now, if it's a mix of decimals and fractions, you can use your calculator to take the fraction to a decimal if you want. Sometimes it's easier to turn the fraction into a decimal. You could also go the other way and turn the decimal into a fraction, but that probably would make it harder. So let's start with 2.5. Where's that going to go? Roland?
In the middle of 2 and 3.
Good, right in the middle. Now, remember what I said about labeling. Not only do we put the dot there, but we need to label it. So if you don't want to put another little line that's halfway between 2 and 3, that's fine. Label your dot. Show me that that's your 2.5. Okay, what about 7/3? What about this? You could use your calculator to turn it into a decimal, 7 divided by 3, or we could turn it into a mixed number. Vincent, what would this be as a mixed number?
2 and 1/3.
2 and 1/3. Good. Where's that going to go? Luke?
Just behind the 2.5.
Good. It's bigger than 2, right? But it's smaller than 2.5. Now, you may not have a lot of room. I'm going to do a different color here just so that you can see, and I'm going to just put an arrow down because I don't have room to label it. I'm going to go ahead and just call it 2 and 1/3 or 7/3, right? So there's the original number, 7/3. That dot has to, now I'm not going to go, oh, it's too close to the 2, it should be scooted. It's hard to squeeze some of them in like that, so just do your best. It does have to come, 2 and 1/3 has to come before 2.5, because think about this as a decimal. 2 and 1/3, if you did your calculator, 7 divided by 3, you'd get 2.3 repeated. 2.3 is smaller than 2.5. Okay, last one, negative 3.75, where will it go? We're looking towards the negative numbers, so between which? CJ?
Between -4 and -3.
Good, between -3 and -4. Now again, the dot placement, you want to try to get it as accurate as possible. So negative 3.5 would be in the middle. Where would 3.75 be? More to the left or more to the right? Diego? More to the left, right? We're closer. Try to get it not smack in the middle like the 2.5, but closer to the left, closer to the -4. There's our negative 3.75. Okay, so if you have fractions, you can turn them into decimals. Hopefully you remember our calculator. Now, the last thing. Again, this is going to be pretty simple. Using less than and greater than signs. Oops, greater than or less than, right? It opens up to the bigger one. This would be greater than, this would be less than. So I did this at the beginning, and we just did it out loud with the numbers. If I said -5 compares to -1, and you're putting the sign in between, which one would you use? -5 is greater than -1, or -5 is less than? Jaden?
The left. I didn't know I got this.
Less than? -5 is less than -1. Right, so again, just thinking about the position. If you need to look on a number line, draw one. I don't think there's number lines on your the name tag on the desk in front of you. That's it. That's it.